Hi, welcome back to McClatchy Maths. My name is Natalie McClatchy and we're continuing our 2024 external exam playlist for General Maths in Queensland, Australia. We're looking at Earth geometry with some questions today, so covering Earth geometry and time zones, questions 1, 5 and 10, all multiple choice questions. What I would recommend doing as you watch this video, after I read the question and show it to you, maybe pause the video, see if you can work it out yourself, and then check to see if my explanation has explained that to you in a way that helped you. Okay, before we get on there, let's engage further with the channel. These are ways that you can connect with me more directly. You could like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when the next video is available to watch. Consider telling someone about the video. You could share the link with somebody or put it in your class OneNote. We're on Facebook and Instagram. It's a great place to stay in touch too. Get in touch with some jokes and some other fun information. Or you can consider saying thanks to us here at the channel. Especially if we're saving your bacon the night before the external exams, you could consider donating $2 through your PayPal account, which makes it confidential and secure. And that helps us with running costs of the channel and keeping these videos pumped out for you. Okay, we've got a question here. I know a lot of my students find these kinds of questions a little bit daunting with Earth geometry, but let's work through it together. Question 1, a location with coordinates of 28 degrees north, 16 degrees west is positioned, and now we've got some information here about the prime meridian and the equator and the international dateline. Now, this is where it's important to have a bit of understanding about geography, have a bit of a mental picture of what the world looks like. If you don't know, get a map and look at it and review that as you're preparing for your exams. So firstly, we know that latitude is stated first. We know that as a fact. So this 28 degree north is our latitude. So that means these are our small circles on the globe. And longitude is stated second. They are our great circles that are vertical. So that's going to help us a little bit to work out in relation to different things. We know the equator, for example, is a latitude line. So when we're talking about things here with latitude and it references the equator, it needs to be in the right position. So north is north of the equator and west is in relation to the prime meridian line. So when we're talking about being north, it needs to be north of the equator. So first of all, we can rule out that one because it's not north of a prime meridian, because the prime meridian is a great circle. So that one's gone. We can also eliminate C because C is talking about being north of the international dateline, and international dateline is also one of those great types of circles. Not a perfect great circle, but it's one of those lines like a longitude line. So C is gone as well. So now we've got these two here where the first part is correct. 28 degrees north of the equator is common to both of them. But this one here is talking about 16 degrees west of the prime meridian, and this one is west of the international dateline. Now you would know that when we're coming up with longitude coordinates, they have nothing to do with the international dateline. The international dateline is only with reference to time zones. So that means we can rule out D, which means B is our answer for question 1. Okay, question 5. A map of Central Australia is shown. Identify the coordinates of Uluru, which is shown in the middle of the map. Now, this is one of those ones where it's kind of about estimation. So, firstly, you would recall that Uluru is in Central Australia. This is part of an Australian map. Now, why this is helpful is that we need to know coordinates in relation to the equator. Remember, we just talked about latitude, which are these ones here, and they're all with respect to being north of the equator and south of the equator. So having a little bit of general knowledge about where Australia is, we are in the southern hemisphere, which means we can automatically rule out A and B, because they are both northern coordinates. So regardless of what these numbers here are, we can straight away do a quick elimination because we know Uluru is in the southern hemisphere. Okay, so now we need to work out, is it east or is it west of the prime meridian? And that's where it gets a little bit complicated. And that's why it's a good idea to have a little bit of an idea about your world map. Now, if you know that this is Australia here, you know that off in the westerly direction, we go through Africa, Middle East, and then we hit Europe, and the prime meridian is in England, which means Australia is east of the United Kingdom and that means that we are east of the prime meridian line, which means D is not an option. So you can see there's a little bit of general knowledge in these first two questions of the exam. And I would, like I said, I would recommend if you're preparing for your exams, study the world map. You don't need to know where every country is, but having a good idea about where Australia is in relation to the dateline, the equator, and the prime meridian is important. That means our final answer is C. Okay, here's our last question, question 10. The local time in Osaka, which I happen to know is in Japan, is 35 degrees north, 135 degrees east, and it's 2 hours ahead of the local time in Phnom Penh. What is the most likely longitude for Phnom Penh? Now, a lot of people would not know where Phnom Penh is, but we need to know that we can use longitude to work out times. Okay, so firstly, here's my little sketch of the world. I've got my prime meridian passing through England here, and I've got my international dateline all the way over to the right. Okay, so if I've got 135 degrees east as my longitude, that means it's going to be in this part here. And I happen to know Japan, where it is. Okay, so that clue in question 5, when they told us that Uluru was 131 degrees east, we could see that on the map here, where Uluru roughly is. So sometimes the questions can help you with other questions. Okay, so that tells us that 135, it gives us approximate location on that map mentally about where it needs to be. We know that Osaka, which is approximately here, is 2 hours ahead of Phnom Penh. So it's closer to the international dateline than what Phnom Penh is, which means Phnom Penh is going to have a longitude which is less. It's going to be in that direction that way. Okay, so our next clue that we need to work out, there's a 2-hour difference. Now we know that 15 degrees is 1 hour, and if you can never remember how many degrees that is, you simply take 360 degrees for a full revolution of the globe, divide it by 24 hours, and you'll get that 1 hour equals 15 degrees. So if 1 hour is 15 degrees, that means 2 hours is going to be 30 degrees. That's where I get the 30 from here. So we take the 135, take 30 away, and we get 105 degrees east. So the hardest part of this question, we could easily eliminate A and B. They make no sense at all. In fact, someone has related that to the latitude instead of the longitude. Where we might get confused is between C and D, and that's this 2 hours clue here. That's why it's a good idea to have an idea in your head about where that international dateline sits, because anything that's just after the dateline gets the time first. Like New Zealand, like Australia, which means Osaka gets the time next, and then Phnom Penh, because Osaka's 2 hours ahead, Phnom Penh will get it later. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. If you've got any questions about anything you saw today, mcclatchymass@yahoo.com is the place to reach me. I'm Natalie McClatchy. Have an amazing day.